Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. So I asked you in a poll before we came on, do you think we are close to peace in the Middle East? And 96% of you said no, only 4% of you said yes. And that was out of 57 votes. So we didn't get a huge number of votes, but maybe one person said no. Or said yes, I should say, as opposed to most people saying no. So I hope you're all very well. Hope you had a nice week and you're ready for some topics for tonight, which of course are, we're going to talk about digital ID, what's happening with that. Sadiq Khan has responded to some comments about kicking out brown people. What's happening in Gaza, of course, is really important. And Kneecap, political group, we could call them, musical group, has won a case in the High Court, I believe. So let's start off with this story here from, oh my goodness, The Telegraph. So Keir Starmer has written in The Telegraph, unfortunately it's behind a paywall, so I can't read the whole article. I'm not going to pay for the Tory graph, but it says here, the left ignored immigration fears for too long. It's time to give control back to communities. Only a plan for patriotic national renewal led by Labour will counter the rise of the populist right. So I would love to know your opinions on this, because I'm a little bit mixed, to put it mildly. Okay, so first of all, he's writing in The Telegraph, so he's reaching out to not Labour voters here. He's reaching out to Tories. He's reaching out to the right. He's not reaching out to the left. You know, if you're talking about the left, normally you would talk to people through a left-leaning newspaper, not The Telegraph, which is a pro-Tory, pro-reform. I'm not sure if it's pro-Tory or pro-reform at this stage, but it's certainly not on the left. So he's attacking the left in a right-wing newspaper. Now, we can look at it this two ways. I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible in my response, which is going to be a bit difficult, but I'll try my best. So one way of looking at this is he's reaching out to people who don't normally vote Labour, who are not considering Labour, and he's criticising, in their eyes, his own party. He's saying, look, we have abandoned the issue of immigration. And look, and I have mentioned this before, immigration, there are people who are concerned about immigration and there are people who are not really concerned about immigration. And within the group who are concerned about immigration, we can split it into two. We can split it into one group which are truly concerned and one which are pretending to be concerned. Now, the ones who pretend to be concerned are just racist. Okay, racist, xenophobes, these people that are beyond the pale. We're talking about the BNP, we're talking about the National Front, we're talking about neo-Nazis, okay? So you can't deal with those people. You can never pander to them. You should never try and pander to them, and you can never reach them because they are too far gone. But there are people who are concerned about immigration, but get their information from the likes of GB News, Talk TV, The Telegraph, maybe the Express newspaper, from Facebook, from social media. And these people can be convinced if you're able to present a proper solution to the problem. So some of the issues that they're concerned about, of course, is housing. So they're concerned that asylum seekers, refugees are being put in housing ahead of British people. Now, that's not actually happening, so you have to try and counter that. But you also have to talk about what we're going to do when it comes to housing. We're going to build enough houses for everyone. That would be a way of solving that problem, taking the issue off the table. When it comes to jobs, what we're doing is we're trying to create as many places for British people so we don't need to rely on people from abroad. But of course, we need to rely on certain people from abroad to work in different sectors because we can't find British people to do these jobs, or British people can't or don't want to do these jobs. This is important. It's important to be clear and honest with the public over this. When it comes to the NHS, you have to explain that a lot of people who are in the NHS, who are working in the NHS, are not British. People come in from abroad to work as doctors, nurses, in administration, all aspects of the NHS. So it's important to be transparent and clear about this with the public. So these are people who are concerned, I would describe them as truly concerned about immigration. They don't know all the details, but they're worried about what's happening in their community. And I think we have to meet those people and we have to explain the situation to them. We have to listen to their concerns and respond with facts and data and reality. So if somebody says, what about all these asylum seekers being put in hotels? Well, you have to explain the problem is that the detention centres to hold them are full. The Conservatives decided to put them in hotels. If you don't want them in hotels, they have to go into some other accommodation, maybe rented accommodation. And of course, this is going to put pressure on the housing situation. But of course, the responsibility of the housing situation is down to the government. The government have a responsibility to provide enough housing for everyone. If they're not doing that, that's not the fault of the asylum seekers and refugees. So while people will be concerned about immigration, it's important that we respond by saying, look, the people in power are the ones who build the houses. The people in power are the ones who fund the NHS. The people in power are the ones who fund public services. And you can have public services, you can have an NHS, you can have enough housing if the government is interested in investing in that. So is immigration an issue? Of course it is. We can't ignore it as an issue. We can't run in the opposite direction. We can't say, well, look, the people who are worried about it are racists or bigots or fascists or whatever. There are those people, of course, but we also have to understand that not everyone is like that, and many people are getting their information from the likes of GB News, Talk TV, social media, and they're being misinformed. And they think that asylum seekers are getting free houses because they just turn up. It doesn't work like that. And we have to push back on that. But this idea that the left has ignored immigration fears for too long, I think it's an attempt to pander to the worst people in society, but also to perhaps reach out to people on the right who are not interested generally in voting for the Labour Party. Now, the other point of this, of course, is that maybe Keir Starmer is listening too much to Blue Labour. So as I mentioned before, Blue Labour is this centre-right or right-wing movement within the Labour Party who want to bang on about Brexit and immigration, sending drones. Yeah, what's his name? Glassman, Maurice Glassman, one of the senior people in Blue Labour, the conservative wing of the Labour Party. I know it's impossible to imagine that there's a conservative. Why is there a conservative wing in the Labour Party? Is there a socialist wing within the Labour Party in the Conservative Party? I don't think so. There are moderates and there are the far right in the Conservative Party. In the Labour Party, there are the left wing, and then there's, it seems, the right wing. And the right wing want to talk about immigration and Brexit a lot. So I don't know if this is an attempt to pander to these people as well, or these people are dictating to Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, you need to talk more about immigration. All winging it, Max. I think that's the case as well, yes. He listens to somebody else. Is that Morgan McSweeney? Dave McGuinness, great to see you on the stream tonight. Trump is holding military meetings on Tuesday. I find this suspicious. Yeah, some people have been suggesting that this could be plans to invade Canada. I hope that's not the case. But it certainly looks like something is going to happen. This immigrant gets free stuff. Sorry. The immigrants get free stuff isn't new. My mom grew up in the 80s and thought this too because an immigrant family moved in on their street. Turns out the guy was a dentist and had a few quid. Yeah, because it's people see, okay, immigrant must be poor. Oh, look, they have a BMW. Then they must have got that from, I don't know, the DWP or something like that. Yeah, there is this attitude that immigrants are all poor. No, they're not all poor. A lot of people coming in to work in different sectors of the economy are well paid. I remember some years ago where there was a shortage of GPs in Scotland, I think, and there were advertisements in Italy for GPs to work in Scotland, and they were talking about earning £3,000-4,000 a month. So pretty good money. And of course, if an immigrant doctor arrived in a community, I'm not saying in Scotland, but in some part of the UK, people may think, oh, an immigrant has arrived and he's driving around in a BMW. It must be something suspect. There must be something wrong here. And of course, many people will latch on to the idea that immigrants are supposed to be poor. Not all immigrants are poor. Not all immigrants are rich. In the same way as not everyone is poor, not everyone is rich. Would love to see what reforms manifesto at the next election outside immigration. Who will run departments of education, health, economy, etc. Dread to think what role 30p Lee will get. He'll be probably Minister of Food, Minister for Cooking. But no, seriously, yes. I think what's going to happen with reform is that Farage has sort of hinted to this, that what they're going to do is they're going to put non-politicians in charge. So a bit like in the United States, where you have a sort of technocratic government, where you have so-called experts running government departments. So it's likely that for the Department of Energy, maybe, or whatever it will be called under a Farage government, once again, I don't know if this is going to happen, but we have to assume, for the sake of argument, it's going to happen. So we have to prepare for that. But under Department of Energy is probably run by somebody connected to the fossil fuel industry, of course, just like when it comes to the United States. When it comes to public health, the NHS, who's going to run the NHS? Probably somebody who works for Palantir or something like that, or some private healthcare corporation. The people who donate to reform will be given positions of power. I think this is what Farage wants to do. He doesn't care about putting Lee Anderson in charge of a government department. He may do that, but it's going to be difficult because reform are not going to build up a significant number of MPs before the next election. There may be a few by-elections here or there, but they won't have a shadow cabinet. They would need to have a shadow cabinet in place, and they don't have the numbers for a shadow cabinet. And this is why I think, in part, why Farage is talking about using people from industry. It could also be to cover this problem, like to cover the gap. He doesn't have enough MPs. He doesn't have a shadow cabinet, and he can't give all the jobs to Lee Anderson. Okay, Lee Anderson has trouble tying his shoelaces. Don't give him like 27 different briefs. Darren Graham's in charge of sex education. Thanks, Brad. Yeah, that would be interesting. You do it all by yourself. That would be his approach. And keep it secret. When you're at school, keep it secret. Somebody who works for Palantir, Saruman, the health secretary. Yes. Don't wish that on me. Vomit bucket at the ready. Government doesn't want to answer to the public. So once again, what is Keir Starmer doing here? And this was written by Keir Starmer. It's not, it's presented to the Telegraph by Keir Starmer. It's not somebody writing on his behalf. It seems to be from Keir Starmer himself. So I can't read the article because it's behind a frigging paywall. Like, this is another issue. It's not really related to what's been talked here, but why are government ministers or MPs writing articles that are hidden behind paywalls? Like, if they want the public to know, surely it should be free for everyone to read. You shouldn't have to be a subscriber of the Telegraph. Alistair's message. Oh, I didn't see Alistair's. Oh, here we go. In Scotland, we call them Red Tories. This Blue Labour is a fudge name to make them not look as bad as, in my opinion, Max. Red Tories is more appropriate. Yeah, so they're left-leaning Tories. Thanks for that, Alistair, and great to see you on the stream tonight. Richard Tice in charge of Doge. Yes, Richard Tice has been has been suggested to be leading the Treasury. He'd be the the Chancellor of the Exchequer for Nigel Farage's administration, which is a terrible thought. There's a real risk that these people will get into power. There's also the possibility, look, the polling is pointing to Lee Anderson for DEFRA. The polling is pointing to either a hung parliament or some sort of majority with Reform UK. But I think, look, let's take a deep breath. Let's take a step back as well. It's a long time until the next election. For example, when Boris Johnson won in 2019, there was talk that the Conservatives would rule for 10 years or 20 years. It was a permanent majority now. And we saw how quickly that all fell apart. Nobody could have predicted the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, Liz Truss. So none of these things could be predicted. And of course, between now and the next election, anything could happen. We don't know what's happening within Reform. We don't know what scandals could come out. We don't know what's going to happen within the Labour Party. I fully believe that Starmer will be replaced before the next election, and somebody more akin to traditional Labour values will be put in place. I am pretty sure of that. And if they do something like that, they'll be able to win back some support. But of course, as I keep saying, they need to push policies that improve the lives of ordinary people. Otherwise, people will just say, I'm going to vote for Reform. Now, there's a huge advantage for Reform at the moment because people don't know what they're about. They're angry with Labour and they're willing to give Reform the benefit of the doubt. But by the time 2028 or 2029 rolls around, we will know more about Reform. And I think many people will have been turned off by them. And also, they have been in charge of a number of councils. They have been running councillors for some time. They may have even had a bit of power in Wales, not so much in Scotland, but maybe in Wales. There's a chance that they could run Wales and they'd run it into the ground. And of course, this would have a chilling effect on people voting for them in the general election. We have a super chat from Christy. Thank you so much, Christy. Please, can we take Keir Starmer's face off the page? How about this? Is it better or worse? Maybe it's worse. So it says here, Elon Musk and Prince Andrew named in latest Epstein files release. Now, this is actually quite surprising. Thanks, Christy. So I followed your advice. Maybe I went out of the frying pan and into the fire here. The Duke of York is named as a passenger on the sex offender's private jet in documents released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee in the US. So Elon Musk's name has appeared on files related to Jeffrey Epstein, with a reference made to the world's richest man potentially visiting the pedophile's island. This is actually quite surprising because I had a feeling that he would be, he's old enough to be connected to this, but then I thought maybe he's not that, he may have been avoiding this for some time, but it's not really a surprise, is it? So I was somewhat surprised by this, but then when you think about it a little bit more than 5 minutes, then you realize, yeah, of course he's going to be involved as well. It's just surprising that he hasn't been mentioned before. So it goes on to say, they show Musk as a potential visitor to Epstein's island, Little St. James, on the 6th of December 2014, 6 years after he became a listed sex offender. His name appeared on what appears to be Epstein's daily schedule, with the entry reading, "Reminder, Elon Musk to island December 6. Is this still happening?" So what did he do on that island? In June, Musk claimed Donald Trump appeared in the files related to the disgraced financier and alleged his administration was concealing information about the US president's association with Epstein. He gave no evidence of the claim, which he made on X, and later appeared to have deleted the posts. So it's possible that Elon Musk was like ranting and raving about Donald Trump being on the Epstein list and then realized, wait a minute, I'm on it as well. Damn it. Better delete those tweets. Musk looks like he's been sucked off. God, thanks, Brad. that image is going to remain. Okay, let's move. Let's change that image because it's a little bit disturbing. Let's go to Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew is a bit more palatable, is he? I don't know. Surprised it took so long to come out about Musk. Yeah. It's They're all in it. They're all on the island. They've all been on the island in some way. And, some people are suggesting that what Epstein was doing is he was engaging in a sort of extortion racket. So he would welcome these multimillionaires and billionaires and these, the richest people in the world to the island, give them everything they wanted, and then say, hey, pay me some money and I won't release any pictures or any videos, or I won't release any more information. And this was his way of making huge amounts of cash. And of course, it was a very dangerous game Epstein was playing, because you're dealing with people who have huge amounts of resources who could come after you and eliminate you, but they're afraid. Epstein probably had some sort of insurance policy saying, look, if anything happens to me, all this information will be put on the internet or something like that. And your name will be on the top of the list, for example. That's probably what he said to each of these individuals. And what does it say about these individuals? They're all pedophiles, it seems. Max on a roll with the mugshots. Thanks, Christy. From bad to worse. I'm looking at who we have next. Oh, well, maybe I don't know if the next one is worse than this after the next article I have in the list. Thanks, Christy. Gareth has a super chat. Thank you so much, Gareth. Sorry I'm late, folks. Big rush on at the all-you-can-eat swanery tonight. Emptied out pretty quickly when I yelled, "Swans are halal." Thanks, Gareth. They're eating the swans. They're eating the carp. Was it the carp as well that Farage was shouting? This is the thing about Farage as well. He's able to shout something and then it runs halfway around the world before the truth has its trousers on. And that's how he operates. And I think this is actually good for him in the short term, but bad for him in the long term. Because, of course, if you lie a number of times and then you're caught out over it, then people stop believing you. The boy who cried wolf. So the Farage who cried swan is going to... I think it's going to damage him long term. But then he's probably operating at a very low bar. He knows that people don't trust politicians generally, so he can sort of get away with lying a lot. Maybe that's his approach, and we'll have to wait and see. Can we get a photo of a swan? Alistair has posted some swans in the chat, so thanks to Alistair for that. Don't forget the poor duck of Boston. I'm not familiar with that. A taxi told me. A taxi driver told me. Yes. My goodness. It is like I mentioned in the video. The taxi driver is a bit like the taxi driver is the new pub bore. No, the guy down the pub who told me that the world is flat and that pigeons don't really exist. Pigeons are robots with cameras or something like that, or that chemtrails are chemicals being put in the air to turn us all gay or something like that. I can't keep up with all the conspiracies. I apologize. Did he choose swan because of the connection to the monarch? Maybe that was it. It's something that has upset a lot of people, of course. We're also on Twitter, on Kick, and on Facebook. So I'll try and read out some comments also on TikTok. We're on TikTok tonight as well. So I'll try and keep an eye on all of your comments and read out as much as possible, guys. Space lasers, Max. The woke worm, mind worm. That's it, yes. It's all there. Simon Harris tells the truth because his dad was a taxi driver. So Simon Harris, of course, being the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland. When Trump said they were eating the cats and dogs, most Americans assumed The Simpsons had just started making good episodes again. Oh my goodness. The king owns all the mute swans. Max is expanding the empire one platform at a time, yes. I've also set up on Kick. I haven't really done anything on Kick, so I'll have a look into that and keep you guys covered. Anyway, let's move on. So one of the big stories of today is the Gaza governor. So Tony Blair been lined up as lead temporary Gaza administration. Oh my goodness, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. So Sir Tony Blair has been lined up as a temporary administration, to lead a temporary administration in the Gaza Strip to oversee reconstruction after the war, according to Israeli media reports. The former UK Prime Minister has been proposed to chair a supervisory board called the Gaza International Transition Authority. A bit like the one in Iraq. No, don't mention Iraq. Okay. The Transition Administration would give Gaza... Sorry, I'm misreading all of this, so let me start again. The Transitional Administration would govern Gaza for several years until it can be handed over to the Palestinian Authority, the Times of Israel reported. The plan would not involve the relocation of Palestinians, something that would has been a red line for many in the negotiations. However, Sky News' US correspondent Mark Stone said that others have cast doubt on the reports. Now, look, Tony Blair has a very complicated past, to put it mildly, in the Middle East. But there is a real feeling, I think, within the United States, within Israel, that he is the right person to do the job. Now, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? I'm inclined to look. Let's look at it from two different perspectives. So, first of all, what can Tony Blair bring to the table when he can bring some sort of expertise? Maybe he has been involved in getting aid into Gaza. He has been involved in trying to broker some sort of peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis for some time. He may be actually a good administrator, but on the other side of this, of course, he has a lot of baggage when it comes to the Middle East. And of course, the idea of a former prime minister running Gaza, I don't think he'll go down very well with many people in the Middle East. Remember the Palestinian Protectorate. This was run by the British in a sense until 1948. So the Palestinians at the time were promised their own state, and then, well, that didn't come to pass, and they're angry with the British over this. So the idea of a British politician coming to run Gaza, look, he can bring a lot of people on board. This could turn out to be a positive thing, but we'll have to wait and see. For a war criminal, that he can bring that to the table. Yes, Sir Larry the Cat. Of course, he has his hands soaked in blood in Iraq. I don't think he's a good choice, but then I'm not sure who else was being put forward. So he seems to be someone who's acceptable to the United States and Israel. So that could be something positive. I'm trying to extract whatever positivity from this as possible, as much as possible. I'm not happy about this. I don't think he would be a good person to be in this position. But if the Israelis and the Americans are happy with this, maybe this is a positive thing. I don't know. But of course, the people who are forgotten in all of this are the Palestinians. They don't have a choice. Shouldn't they be allowed to choose their leader? Can you imagine a situation where the Americans and some other countries in Europe decided we're going to impose a leader in Britain following a situation like this? I don't think the British people would be too happy about that, and rightly so. So I don't know if the Palestinians will go along with this, but then maybe the Palestinians don't really have much of a choice. They don't have a functioning government at the moment. They don't have a functioning administration. They don't have a functioning public service at the moment. So this could, there's a possibility that many people in Gaza in particular will say, look, it's better. It's the best of a bad situation. So, there are rumors, or it's said that this will last for a number of years, maybe 5-6 years, until the country is able to be rebuilt in some way, and then authority will be handed over to a Palestinian authority through elections or elections will follow after that. the war needs to end. The killing and massacring of people needs to end. It needs to stop. So if this is a step in that direction, it's not the best approach, but then what else is on the table at the moment? More conflict, more bloodshed. So look, I'm not a person to suggest whether this is a good idea or not, because I'm not involved in Gaza. I'm not a Palestinian. But if the Palestinians are open to this, and maybe some of them are, then maybe it can work. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. So Donald Trump says it's a good idea. Trump says it's looking like we will have a deal to end the war in Gaza. It's not really a war. War is normally between two sides, opposing sides. But anyway, what does he say? Sorry, this isn't related. Let me see if I can get the Trump video. No, the Trump video is not here. Okay. I don't know why they didn't include the Trump video. Oh, no, here it is, I think.
I think we have maybe a deal on Gaza, very close to a deal on Gaza. How are you? Hello, Peter. And it's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. And we'll let you know. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal. That'll be number 8, Peter. Not bad.
It's always about him, isn't it? You know, there are people dying on both sides. In particular on the Palestinian side, and he's like, yeah, well, what about me? I can mark it down as number 8.
That was Donald Trump speaking there, and as you heard him say, it looks like we have a deal on Gaza. He was speaking to Arab leaders, Muslim leaders here at the UN General Assembly over the course of the last few days, and gave them certain reassurances about annexation of the West Bank, concerns that Israel was planning to annex the West Bank. He also spoke to them about ending the Israeli onslaught in Gaza, and we've heard that fiery speech from the Israeli Prime Minister, but Donald Trump there standing firm. He is due to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday, and there is hope that he will very firmly tell Benjamin Netanyahu that enough is enough. That is the expectation of Arab leaders. But
and maybe that's true. Like, if you were to ask me a couple of weeks ago, would Donald Trump pressure Netanyahu to end this? I would say no. He is under no obligation to do so. He doesn't give a crap. But I think Trump is starting to, and this is hopeful thinking. Okay, I'm being really optimistic here. I'm maybe overly optimistic, especially when it comes to Trump. But there's two signs that give me the impression that maybe Trump wants some sort of resolution here. First of all, when it came to Ukraine. So he sort of washed his hands of the situation in Ukraine and says, look, Ukrainians can take back control of their territory. He was until recently pushing for some sort of peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Now he seems to be off the idea that, look, the US is not going to get involved, but we will support the Europeans if they want to support Ukraine in pushing the Russians out. So that's a bit of a change. Once again, I don't know if this is really what he's thinking, because remember, Donald Trump sort of regurgitates the last thing he heard from somebody. And also when it comes to what's happening in Israel and Palestine and Gaza, maybe there's a bit of a change taking place. Donald Trump wants some sort of recognition for his work. What did he do? Nothing. But he would want some recognition for what he has achieved. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to be the guy, because he's not doing very well in the polls at the moment, and he's hoping that at least when it comes to foreign policy, he will benefit some way out of this. Other people are doing the heavy lifting, of course, but he wants the glory. And many are willing to, if you help us along, we will give you the glory. We will do the heavy lifting. You steal the glory. You steal the valor. Stolen valor is a concept in the US. Look it up. It's interesting. But I think it's a case that Trump wants to take the credit for this. So people understand, well, if we give him something, we'll be able to achieve something. Let him take the credit. But of course, everyone else would be better off. But we'll have to wait and see. Max, as a brunette, Max is fighting for sight. I'm not sure I understand that. I stayed at the Al Dira Hotel in Gaza. I can guarantee without knowing it's gone. Oh my goodness. He wanted a resolution in Gaza so he can get his hands on land for hotels, etc. That could be also, yes. I try to be positive, but people in the chat are like, no, come back down to earth, Max. Yeah, and maybe that's true. It's a case of, we want to get this resolved so I can get the money in, get some buildings set up. We want to get that prime real estate in use because it's sitting there idle, so we don't want that. We are brunettes, Max. Newsflash: a fat orange bloke breaks the escalator at the United Nations building. Allegedly, somebody has switched it off, and then also switched off the auto cue. I'm not sure I understand the brunettes one. I'm not brunette, as you can see. So I'm not sure what that's about. Stolen Valor, like Frank Dux from the Jean-Claude Van Damme Bloodsport. I don't remember that film. I'm not a huge fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Anyway, let's move on. Oh my goodness. No pensioner deportations, says Danny Kruger. Under Reform, says Danny Kruger. So Danny Kruger, of course, has just recently defected to Reform UK. And Reform UK are under a bit of pressure because they've been saying, look, what we're going to do is we're going to deport people even though they have right to remain. We're going to rewrite right to remain, indefinite right to remain, and we're going to kick out a lot of people. Although, as soon as people started asking questions, particularly journalists, it sort of fell apart, and now they're trying to put it back together again. So no pensioner deportations under Reform, says Kruger. Reform UK's newest MP, Danny Kruger, has denied that there are plans for some sort of pensioner deportation programme. The MP for East Wilton, Wiltshire, was responding to comments that proposals to scrap the indefinite leave to remain status under a Reform government could mean people who had lived and worked in the UK for decades could be made to leave the country. Kruger, who defected from the Conservatives last week, was said that it was not the case, but told the BBC that prioritising UK citizens and culture was necessary. The evangelical Christian also insisted Muslim migration is a threat to the culture of the UK and warned criticising people for using words like invasion in relation to immigration was shutting down legitimate concerns. The legitimate concerns. Okay. Invasions involve soldiers. So if people are coming into the country and they're not soldiers, even though you like to describe them as military-age young men, using the word invasion is completely wrong. They're not armed, they don't have tanks, they don't have weapons, they're not planning to hold territory. It's not an invasion. So it's complete and utter bullshit, horseshit, as Frederick has said, in order to convince people, to allow people to use language that is xenophobic, of course. Now, this whole thing of no deportations for pensioners is interesting because, of course, if they're going to end indefinite leave to remain and some people who received it were not pensioners and are now pensioners, then it would look pretty bad for Reform if they end up deporting pensioners. Even Reform UK voters may say, this is going a bit too far. We want to go after the military age young men, not the old age pensioners, the senior citizens. We're going after the wrong people, and the optics would be pretty terrible. And of course, the other political parties would jump on that. So, like many Reform UK policies, as soon as you start asking questions, it falls down like a house of cards. And this is what we need to see happening. We need to see journalists asking more questions about policies, because a lot of the policies are extracted from Nigel Farage's backside. I'm sorry for that imagery, but I'm sorry, that's the reality of the situation. And of course, they're not thought up. They're just like, let's throw this against the wall and hope that it sticks. If it doesn't stick, we'll throw something against the wall. It's like when they say we're going to deport 100,000 people, or we're going to send people to the Ascension Islands, or we're going to set up a Rwanda type scheme, or we're going to deport everyone, or we're going to take people as soon as they arrive and deport them immediately. All of these things that Reform UK are pushing are nonsense, but they're nonsense until they're actually grilled on it. Because as soon as they're grilled, they fall apart. Because a lot of it is about just vibes. People don't like immigration. Let's give them more anti-immigration stuff. Let's not think too much about it. Because as soon as you start thinking about it, then you can't be radical. You need to be pragmatic. And Reform UK are not pragmatic. They're not interested in pragmatism. They're interested in radical policies. Because they think if we put out a radical policy, it will attract more attention than a pragmatic one. And they're right. But the problem is that these things live in a vacuum. As soon as they're grilled in some way, as soon as they're scrutinized, they fall apart. A bit like electrons. As soon as you start looking at electrons, as soon as you try to measure one, the mathematics completely fall apart. And the scientists in the chat are probably smashing their head against the screen because I'm presenting it completely wrong here. But you get the picture, okay? So Reform UK are putting out radical policies, hoping that, relying on their support base not to understand it, and hoping that the public are not going to ask too many questions. But this is why quality journalism is necessary, to push back, to scrutinize, so that when they do put out policies like this and they are scrutinized, if they are robust, sound policies, they will withstand the scrutiny. But Reform UK are not interested in that. So this could be their Achilles heel. But it requires quality journalists, and unfortunately, they're in short supply. It's politics by sound bites, just like the tabloid headlines, boards outside shops. Yes, exactly. God. Remember, get Brexit done. What did get Brexit done mean? We don't know. We still don't know what get Brexit done means. But it worked. It was a slogan. As soon as you start asking questions, what does get Brexit done mean? The whole thing falls apart. Max, can you show Freddy Krueger's picture instead? Enough of this Krueger. Let's move on to somebody else. Yes, I wanted to show you this video. This is serious. Let me just change. No, what am I doing? Whoops, here we go. No, I want to show you this video because this is really concerning. And because I've said before, what's happening in the United States is a precursor to what's happening in the UK and in Europe. And what they're talking about in Canada at this stage is something called remigration. Not deportation, but remigration, where you're taking people who have every right to stay in the country, people who are born in Britain, for example, and deporting these people to countries they've never even lived in. Have a listen to this.
Do you ever wonder how far-right extremists manage to sneak their agendas into the political mainstream? Let me explain it to you, because they're trying to do it right now using this term, remigration. It's a growing movement in the United States and in Europe, and some folks are trying to make it grow here in Canada too, because the language of remigration puts a more palatable package on some pretty disturbing far-right anti-immigrant goals. In 2019, as they reported on the growth of this phenomenon in Europe, the Associated Press described remigration as, quote, the chilling notion of returning immigrants to their native lands in what amounts to a soft-style ethnic cleansing. And now its proponents here in Canada want to frame this as a moderate position. In fact, here's the founder of the Canadian remigration movement saying he wants to see Poilievre use the term by the end of the year.
I would love to make sure that Pierre Poilievre says the word remigration before the end of this year. He's kind of embraced this position on net negative immigration lately.
Guess who follows that guy that you just saw? Jeff Ballingall, who the Globe reported just months ago Poilievre had hired to help with his image and message, and Sebastian Skamsky, who was director of media relations for Pierre Poilievre until early this year. Now, in a statement sent to the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which has a really great breakdown of this issue, the guy you just saw in that clip claimed that, quote, "We explicitly reject any association with ethnic cleansing." Instead, his group just wants to, according to their own website, remove the illegitimate population through the revocation of permanent residency, mass deportations, and even by encouraging naturalized citizens to voluntarily leave Canada. Now, while parts of the website, like the one I just showed you, kind of give up the whole game here, so too do high-profile members of this movement. One of the most prominent members of the white nationalist group Diagolon, who's also a part of those far-right active clubs that have been training each other to fight, he boasted online about his membership in this group and has repeatedly encouraged others to join. And the pro-remigration group gave him the membership number 88, which in far-right communities is a dog whistle for Heil Hitler, because H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, so 88. You get it. The anti-hate article on this issue also cites that Diagolon guy as claiming that, quote, "Remigration means all of the foreigners, including the ones who were born here and assimilated." So, yeah, this is what they want to make mainstream in Canada, and these efforts have kind of worked in other countries. If you want to learn more about this, I'm bringing back my podcast with a live episode tomorrow.
Okay, I believe that this lady was, I only discovered her recently, but I believe that she was doxxed by Charlie Kirk. Remember Charlie Kirk? You know, the savior, the great Christian? Well, it seems that he doxed her. And doxing, if people don't understand what doxing means, doxing is where you make people's private information public. You give their address out, you give their first name and surname out to the public in order for people to go after them. This is not about transparency. This is about encouraging violence against individuals. Now, many people online don't give out their personal information because they're afraid of the consequences of that, and rightly so. Now, what she's talking about here, of course, is really concerning, this idea of remigrating people. So taking people who have every right to stay in the country. We're not talking about asylum seekers who have failed in their claims. We're talking about people who have either moved to the country or who were born in a country because their parents moved. We're talking about maybe second or third generation individuals being deported. This is extremism, and it's been talked about. Doxing is illegal. I don't actually know if doxing is illegal. There may be privacy issues related to it, but I don't know if it's actually illegal. But it's certainly unethical. I don't know if the law has caught up with this concept, but anyway, this remigration concept is really concerning because it's getting a lot of traction, and there's a party called the Heritage Party, I think, in the UK, which is pushing a lot for this remigration, and it's really concerning because it's talking about people who have every right. We're not talking generally about immigrants. You know, they've moved on from deporting immigrants. They want to send people who they don't like to countries that they've never lived in. And this stuff needs to be called out. And what I'm really concerned about is people like Nigel Farage at the moment are not embracing this, but give it time, he may. Now, I hope, in a sense, that Nigel Farage will move to the centre, because he probably believes that's the way to win power. But if he throws some red meat or a bone to his support base, he may involve himself in some of this remigration as well. It's really concerning. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next topic. The Tories are dead. Really? Are the Conservatives dead? Well, this is what Keir Starmer is saying about them. No, that's not the video. Wait a moment. Apologies for that. Here we go. So Keir Starmer was delivering a speech at a conference today, a progressive conference, where have a listen to what he had to say.
That march that we had here 2 weeks ago in London, in Whitehall, that sent shivers through the spines of many of our communities well away from London, not just those in the immediate vicinity. So there's
Alistair says it was discussed at the Reform Conference. My goodness. So it's got that bad already. You need a video assistant, Max. Yes, I do.
The battle for the soul of this country now as to what sort of country do we want to be, because that toxic divide, that decline with reform, it's built on a sense of grievance politics, identifying something real for sure, but relying on the problem existing in order for their politics to persist. And it's a very different choice. The choice before the electorate here at the next election is not going to be the traditional Labour versus Conservative. It's why I've said the Conservative Party is dead. Centre-right parties in many European countries have withered on the vine. And
wow. Okay, so the Conservative Party are dead, according to Keir Starmer. Is he right? Well, to a certain extent, yes, he is right. The Conservative Party are pretty much finished. I've mentioned before that if Boris Johnson came back, there's a possibility that he could rejuvenate the Conservative Party. But generally, we're seeing an exodus from the Tories to Reform. And Reform are replacing, in a sense, the Reform Party believe in recycling, recycling the Conservative Party into Reform, as we've seen a lot of ex-Tories jumping ship to Reform. And even not so much ex-Tories as well. So I think we're going to see more of this going forward. The Conservative Party will be replaced by Reform. And Reform understand, look, politics is generally two main parties. You have the Conservatives and you have Labour. And if Labour are on the ropes, then the Conservatives are going to take over. And if we replace the Conservatives, I don't know if this was his plan all along. Maybe it was. But he's certainly in a situation now where he's replacing the Conservatives. And what does this mean for Kemi Badenoch? What does it mean for Robert Jenrick? Are they going to batten down the hatches, or are they going to jump ship to Reform?
The same is happening in this country. It's a different proposition, and therefore it becomes a binary argument as to the future of our country. And it actually becomes bigger than Labour. It's about all of those that genuinely believe in the patriotism that I think is the heart of what we are as a country. So for us, it's about battling with repairing the damage that was done under the last government, which was huge, but rebuilding in a way which embraces and takes on the battle for the soul of the country, because we're going to face a very different election next time to any of the elections we fought in the United Kingdom for a very, very long time. And we need to be, that's why I think, certainly why I want.
Somebody needs to give him a bit of charisma, no? He needs to be a bit more out there. I've said before, what Keir Starmer should be doing is like dropping a few F-bombs. The politics has completely changed since 2010, since 2005. You know, Nigel Farage has taken social media and media in general and run with it. And he's manipulating it. He's taking advantage of the situation. While the other parties are, like, as I mentioned recently, when Parliament was in recess, Nigel Farage was campaigning. You know, when the political parties, the normal political parties go home at the weekend, Nigel Farage goes into the office and works overtime. Now, maybe it's a bad analogy there, but you know, considering how lazy he is. But he understands when they're sleeping, he's active. And he's taking he's winning votes over. He's showing himself up on social media. He's able to use social media to his advantage, while the other parties are still operating like it's 20 years ago. Brad, thanks so much for that super chat. If ID cards come with DNA profiles, there's going to be a lot of sweating from Boris Johnson, Charlotte Owen and Prince Harry. The Prince Harry one got me, was a bit of a curveball there. Yes, but it's true. It's true. What was his name? Hewitt? Was the guy's name? look very much like Hewitt, not so much like Charles. Not a lot of Charles DNA in Prince Harry, I don't think. Charlotte Owen, of course, connections to Boris Johnson. And then Boris Johnson, well, he's repopulated the United Kingdom, it seems. So I think at least 40% of the UK population shares some sort of DNA with Boris Johnson. I'm sorry to say. He just spread that seed wide and far. Sorry for the imagery as well there. Rise of Reform suits Irish reunification camp, says Peyo. Is it Pejo or Peyo? And you're completely correct. Because Nigel Farage is not interested in the union. He doesn't give a crap about the union. He would be happy, well, not happy, but he would be okay, I would say, with Ireland becoming united. He would be okay with Scottish independence in a limited and specific way, because he doesn't care about Scotland. He's not a unionist. People will try to consider him a unionist. He'll present himself maybe as a union, although he's never really said he's a unionist. But if Reform do really badly, and this could be interesting, if Reform do really badly at the Scottish elections next year, I think there'll be a lot of pushback against the idea of the union. I think many English nationalists will be like, fuck this, let Scotland go, we don't give a crap about Scotland. Scotland is the Scots didn't vote for Reform, so fuck them. I think that's what we're going to probably hear from Reform UK if they don't do well. Now, they may do well in Wales, so there may not be much of a response of that kind. But, while I don't think Nigel Farage would be open to welcoming Scottish independence, I don't think he would be willing to allow a Section 30, which would allow Scotland to have another referendum. I don't think he'd be on board with that. But I don't think he would stand in the way of Scottish independence. He doesn't give a crap. It's like complete and utter indifference. Because, once again, like the Tories, if he doesn't have any power there, he doesn't really care. And then the Scottish Tories, of course, the Tories in general, present themselves as unionists. So they don't want to be seen as the party that destroyed the union. In the same way as Labour don't want to be the party that destroyed the union. But both of them, in a sense, don't really give a crap about Scotland, especially at this case. In this case, and of course, at this moment in time, Labour are likely to lose a lot of votes in Scotland, and the Tories are likely to be decimated in Scotland. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Reform. Okay, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I just want to cover one final story here about Kneecap. If you don't know who Kneecap is, well, they're a rap band, a political rap band. So it says here, terrorism charges against Kneecap rapper Makara have been thrown out. Makara meaning my friend.
Right, some breaking news to bring you concerning the band Kneecap and one of their rappers, Liam O'Hanna. His charge of terrorism has been thrown out by the magistrate at Woolwich Crown Court following the reporting says a technical error in the way the charge was brought against him. The court has ruled that the prosecution of Liam O'Hanna, who was alleged to have displayed a flag in support of the terror group Hezbollah during a gig in London in
Mahara.
November of last year, has now been thrown out due to a technical error in the way that the charge was brought. We're going to get more detail on that decision by the magistrate at Woolwich Crown Court later on this morning, of course.
So allegedly he had waved a Hezbollah flag, which of course Hezbollah is a prescribed organisation. So I'm not sure of all the details. I'm not sure why it was thrown out. It seems that there were some technicalities involved. So it's not really that he was found not guilty, but more a case of there's nothing really to be done here because there were technicalities, there were there were procedures not followed in the case. So I think the Attorney General is under a lot of pressure here, maybe to resign as well, because it's not very good. Band, you said band, not popular music group. Thank goodness for that. I'm not sure what I did wrong there or did right. Can we have Manchester independence, please? Maybe. You have to petition Labour or the future reform government. A victory for freedom of speech. Maybe it is. I don't know all the details yet, so we'll have to wait for more of it to come out. They've done what exactly to help the people of Gaza. They sure cashed in, though. Yeah, well, look. To be honest, I don't know what they were doing. I don't think it was so much about Gaza. It was more about Hezbollah, because one of the members was waving a flag in support of Hezbollah, but I'm not sure exactly what. I think it was solidarity in a sense. Any tips on the best place to go in Ireland? Planning a trip in spring solo. Don't normally give this type of advice, but because Suzanne is a great commentator, a great supporter of the channel, so I do recommend traveling around the west of Ireland. It's really nice. Don't stay in Dublin too long. It's quite expensive. Definitely don't go to Temple Bar unless you want to be completely fleeced. But if you want to have a good pint of Guinness, go to a small pub, and if it has lots of old people in it, then you're going to get a good pint of Guinness, because the old people drink, the old people want a good. The old people are connoisseurs, I should say, of Guinness. So always find a good pub with old people in it. If you find a lot of young people in it, go to another place. There are lots of pubs in Dublin if you're in Dublin starting out. But don't stay in Dublin too long. It's very expensive. Certainly not Temple Bar. Kerry, Tipperary, yes, as well. So there are lots of places you can. But I'd recommend renting a car, traveling around if you can. And probably staying in B&Bs generally is quite good, not hotels. And eat in pubs, don't eat in restaurants. Restaurants are normally quite expensive, and you normally don't. The food is not all that. It's not great, but if you eat pub food, it's cheap. You get a good portion, keep you going for the whole day, and the atmosphere is quite good. So. And when it comes to tipping, I don't think in Ireland you tip. Not since I was there anyway. So depends on where you're coming from. Cheesy chips, the traditional dish of Longford. There is a place in Longford. I don't know if it's still there, but it was called Luigi's, and they were. Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. Okay, so I'm going off on a complete tangent here, but I will get back on the stream. I promise. Just to say this. So the subtitle on the restaurant name was Traditional Italian Chips. It's like, what the hell is that about? Because in Italy you don't really eat chips, and it's it's definitely not traditional. So it would be like if you went to Japan and you saw traditional English sushi. Like, what the fuck is that? So it's it's not traditional anyway. But you get a garlic chip if you like garlic mayonnaise, and also cheddar cheese if you eat cheddar cheese on that as well. It has like 5 million calories or something. So, and a big portion. It'll keep you going for a long time. And it's something very funny, very strange that people outside Ireland, maybe the UK, will experience is people drink a lot of tea, but they drink tea in a restaurant or they drink tea in a chipper, which is unusual. So you'll see people drinking tea with their chips and burger and stuff like that. It was surprising for some of my Italian friends. It's true, Italian migrants opened chippies all over the UK and Ireland. Still a lot of family-run ones that have been around for decades. But it's not traditional in the sense of Italian. Max, the summons was a day late, was charged before the AD gave the Attorney General gave the go-ahead. By the way, waving a Hezbollah flag is not popular in the South. Last Irish US casualty was killed by them. So I don't know what their shenanigans are there. Potatoes in Ireland are excellent now. Don't forget the potato famine. No, don't forget. Ice cream in Scotland. Yes, that's a good one. They're Italians. They can't get more Italian than deep fried pizza. No, don't say that to them. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream tonight. So I want to say thank you to everyone who came on. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job as always. And thanks to you for smashing the like button. If you haven't, you can still do it before we go. And of course, we have our one for the roads. This is an old one, but it checks out. It's a good one. So I hope you enjoy this. I certainly did on the 5th occasion, but let's enjoy it once again. So here we go.
Welcome to Broken News. A win for campaigners, as those who have repeatedly said they just want their country back are to finally get it. As of midnight on December the 31st, new laws will come into force that will reset the UK to the 1st of January 1970. Our reporter is on hand to tell us what to expect.
PE teachers and priests who are almost certainly pedos, wolf whistling at big-titted birds, overt racism, sitcoms where the gay characters are written as big mincers who want to bomb anything that moves, and cars that have all the structural integrity of a big egg. Just some of the things returning to Britain after much campaigning by pink-cheeked, thick-necked twats. This government pamphlet explains all the changes. The information can't be emailed or put on social media because the entire UK internet is in the process of being shut down. There'll be just one TV channel playing only the black and white minstrel show. Vegetables will be boiled until they taste like farts, and there'll be 3 types of beer available: warm, shit, and warm and shit. Smallpox will make a comeback along with TB and tetanus. And it won't just be diseases having an impact on your physical health. Teachers will be allowed to beat you in the week, your dad will beat you on a Saturday, and a priest will beat you off on Sundays. Wallpaper will only be available with big, massive flowers on it or weird geometric patterns that induce migraines, and the only paints available at Do It All will be government-issued brown, orange and avocado, the colours of the new Union flag. It's also been confirmed that everyone will be smoking everywhere all the time. Professional sports people will have to play in their underpants if they forget their kit, and the rules of football will change to allow angry little Scottish midfielders to break more legs. Some things won't change. No dentist appointments will be available. Police will beat 7 shades of shit out of anyone caught protesting, and right-wing fascists will have disproportionate influence on national political discourse. Back to you.
What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You sleep tight, sugar tits. I'll be up in a bit. What have I told you kids? Why are you in fucking bed?
Oh my goodness. I think that's one of their best. So have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night. I almost forgot. We're on the post-stream chat after the show, so do check that out if you're on Discord.